Hi, welcome. Thank you for tuning in to SABIFF.tv. My name is Ada Babineaux, and I'm the founder and director of the San Antonio Black International Film Festival. We're so happy to present the film Footprints. And I'm glad you got a chance to tool in and really learn a little bit more or a little bit beyond what you're taught in history books. I am so proud and happy to present the filmmaker, Shirikiana Gerima. Thank you for joining us. Actually, Sharik is someone that I'm proud to say is part of my extended family. She's an independent filmmaker, film advocate, and co-producer of not only the highly acclaimed film Sankofa, she's done Through the Door of No Return, Brick by Brick, and she has basically been dedicated to independent cinema by, for, and about people of African descent for over 30 years, more than that probably, Sharik, providing programming, distribution, and exhibition of independent films. So welcome. Thanks.
Hi, Ada. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Yeah. So Sharik, tell us a little bit. I mean, so how did Footprints, how did this project develop for you specifically on the topic of Pan-Africanism?
So Footprints of Pan-Africanism came out of really a continuum of projects around Pan-Africanism. So Sankofa, as you stated, was produced by myself and Haile, and you were, of course, also a key part of the production of Sankofa. And we were investigating the idea of going back to one's past to really understand one's future in that script. Haile wrote that, and during the production process, I was in Ghana, pre-producing. And it was at that time that I really got exposed to the remnants, I guess I could say, the continued existence of the Black diaspora or African diaspora within Ghana. I had read a little bit about it, but seeing people from, the Caribbean, from the US, from different parts of the world in Ghana, and learning about the role of that group also since independence was fascinating. So that was really how it started. And so we finished Sankofa. We finished Through the Door of No Return, which was a documentary made after Sankofa that really looks at, it confronts slavery. And I think it's a very nice partner for Sankofa, because it really takes a look at what it was my own personal confrontation with slavery. And I just, was very, very upfront, I think, about what that meant to me as a Black person in America. And I followed my father's own experience and went back he went there, and he actually died because of his trip there. He got malaria, but he was searching for what so many African Americans and other people in the diaspora are searching for when they go to Africa. And that's, a home, a place where you can feel comfortable, a place where you can just not feel like you're out of place. And, he very much wanted that. And so after he passed, I had the opportunity as a filmmaker then to kind of go back and see what he was looking for. And so that's what happened with Through the Door of No Return.
So this was pretty much an extension for you of the film Through the Door of No Return.
I think you can say that, yes, because Through the Door of No Return began to help me understand what, that yearning for Africa that comes when you're a part of the diaspora. There is a yearning, recognized or not, there's something there's a void that I think I was fortunate enough to be able to confront and address. But I think most of us have something that's just not resolved, in our perception of who we are and where we think we belong on the planet. And because of that displacement, you may not be able to kind of reconcile it. And I think that people who are able to make this trip to the continent are often able to reconcile who they are, where they came from, and feel like there is a strong terra firma to stand on somewhere on the planet. And that recognition, that feeling of, yes, there is a home for me. I have a home. I came from a home. Really is something that is difficult to put into words. And I was trying to, I think, confront that void and capture that feeling in through the door of no return. And so when I did Footprints, I was really able to then go further, like you said, because the reason that, so during the independence movement, Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, called out to that diaspora. He knew the diaspora. He was really a part of it in many ways because he went to school and he did a lot of work in the Black community here and in Great Britain. And so he knew that there were some things that the diaspora had to offer. And he, I think, also knew there were some things that we were also looking for that we needed someplace. So he made a call during the independence era, and this is like late 50s, to say, come home. Just come on home, bring some skills. If you have whatever you have, bring it to help contribute to the development of this newly independent African country. And we will together, with talents of the diaspora and talents of Africans in the continent, in Ghana and other places, work to build a continent that really is independent and self-sustaining. And I think most of us know this famous sense that he had, which was that Ghana cannot be free until all of Africa is free. And so he saw the diaspora also in that equation of making that possible. And so the people from the diaspora that came there, many of them came there with that mission. You say, let's build. We've been trying to build all our lives and just had nowhere to build it because we weren't. Every time we build in the diaspora, racism tears it down. So that's what Footprints is about.
Mm-hmm. So the title. So did you come up with the title? Did you come up with the title, or did you have difficulty trying to title it once you got through with it, or was it already titled before you finished it?
It's I titled it when I got through with it toward the end. Mm-hmm. I was playing with some other titles, like Whisper on the Waves was really the one that struck me. I really wanted to call it that. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's where you see kind of this ambiguity or the kind of a schizophrenic opening. You do see Whispering on the Waves when the film opens. Uh-huh. Because poetically, it was really saying to me what, we were trying to say. There is something, those waves, the ocean's significance in our history can't be denied. And what we couldn't say, what we were silenced, what we couldn't, express can be heard on those waves. And so that was the title that I was trying to use. But I needed something that really stated that this is a Pan-African movie, that you, as someone searching for your own sense of who you are and who your community is locally and internationally, can hear what I'm trying to do in the title. Mm-hmm. So there's some Pan-Africanism that our footprints lead us to, have led us from, and are intertwined, that we need to take a look at. And I thought that, so I settled on Footprints of Pan-Africanism, which I think also does that trick.
When I think of Pan-Africanism, I think along the lines of what you depicted in the documentary. You think of racial and cultural pride, self-determination, equity, but yet the larger society it seems to be either disconnected with the concept or may acquaint Blackness as a threat to other people or society. So even the colors of the flag, the red, black, and green together is menacing or too revolutionary to a lot of people that they shy away from it. Yet, when you're looking at nationalism or white nationalism, I think we saw that with the raiding of the Capitol. You think racism, you think bigotry, you think inequality. So pairing the two together, why is Pan-Africanism looked down at by the large society and nationalism seems to not be?
You mean white nationalism?
Yeah, and I didn't even hear about the concepts of nationalism or white nationalism. I didn't until this whole Trump era. You know? I'm serious. It wasn't anything that was in my orbit, in my sphere until that became more racially apparent. So
well, I'm glad that you hadn't. It means maybe that the generation before you had done something right and shielded you from that, because that Klan's activity throughout this country historically has often been labeled, even with white nationalist labels, and so their dialogue includes this idea of white nationalism. So it's a credit to those people who have worked so hard to make this country a fairer place for people that we haven't even had that wasn't part of our lexicon for a while. But it was below the surface, and all somebody like Trump had to do was scratch it a little bit and address the yearning or address the feeling of inadequacy, I'll say, that this group of people feel, and say, okay, you feel inadequate, well, it's Black people's fault. All that's Black people's fault. So I think that that's why white nationalism is raising its head, because this country has not been able to address the needs of its poor white population. And so, the easiest way out has always been us. But I don't know if that answers your question about Pan-Africanism versus white nationalism. They're so
it's treated differently.
Yeah, because because the thing is, white nationalism prevails. Right. So the prevalent ideology in America has been white nationalism. It hasn't been spoken. That's what it is. So the people call on systemic racism, as a let's look at how the system is systematically racist. Well, in those veins of racism, you'll find white nationalism, the idea that white is superior, that it is to reign. And anything you do to say that you are a full human being is a threat to white nationalism, which is a threat to America. So anybody, Black Studies courses, how mundane can that be? But people have died to make Black Studies courses acceptable in the public schools. In my era, they would call you, being called a militant or a radical.
Right.
What people would call you if you were saying, I need to study, let's have a Black literature course or in college. And sometimes these would be Black people that were looking at you like that. And so, but it's again, because of this dominance of a white nationalist feeling. And I don't think we can even say, I can't even, white nationalism is something. It's a thing on its own. But when you talk about Pan-Africanism, you really are talking about self-sustainability.
Right.
You're really saying that regardless of white nationalism, regardless of a world bent on controlling everybody in it through a colonial and neo-colonial framework, we have to say that it's possible and necessary that Africa be able to take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that Pan-African framework is one that calls for a happier future
Mm-hmm.
for people of African descent, and anybody around that is concerned about that concept. Say your friends or people who think, I've spoken before about this film. Sometimes a student will say, well, what about us? And they might be Asian or white or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of response comes from not really understanding that Pan-Africanism is good for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because
unlike white nationalism.
Oh yeah, that's something else. That's based on hate and
right, exactly.
It's really not even. It's just a hate ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas something like Pan-Africanism is saying that the world, and this is the amazing and wonderful thing that I found in doing Footprints.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to what people like Kwame Nkrumah were calling for, you just say, well, golly, that's something the whole world needs.
Mm-hmm.
He was simply calling for the possibility of Africa to be a contender in order to contribute to a stronger world.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And when you look back at what people like him were calling for, you say, well, did we miss the boat? Because are we in a system now that are we suffering the misery that we could have avoided had we been able to implement some of the things they were talking about?
Mm-hmm.
They really were trying to grasp a system based on fair human existence, where relationships were fair, where the sense of inclusion was part of an economy, where racism had no place, tribalism had no place.
Yeah.
The idea of being African was fundamental. If you were Ghanaian, okay, that's good, but you're African first. And so then dividing the Ghanaian, being Ghanaian down into the sub-tribes wouldn't even happen unless you're talking about where this food came from or where, some kind of cultural nuance came from. But the division of groups now throughout Africa based on their tribal origins was completely discouraged because of the Pan-African way of including everybody in carving out the destiny of Africa. I'm not saying it was a perfect euphoria, but I am saying that.
I mean, just an extension of what Garvey was doing. I mean, because this was an extension of what Garvey, the whole concept and the ideology of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Nkrumah was very clear about Garvey. And Footprints of Pan-Africanism talks with Dr. Lee, for example, who's a dentist, who came from America. He went to school with Kwame Nkrumah at Lincoln University. And when he became prime minister, he called on his friends like Dr. Lee and other classmates and said, why don't you come over and, let's see what you can do here.
Wow.
So Dr. Lee took his family, his wife, to Ghana. They have 2 boys, and they were raised in Ghana. And they were both, she was a doctor, he was a dentist. They both practiced there for, years and years and years. He died there, and she did too. Wow. And but he talks in the film about how Nkrumah was incorporating his talent, for example, and how he was told that Kwame Nkrumah was saying things like, I wish. Oh, and another person in the film was saying that they had heard him say he regrets that he never met Garvey, but that he was very much influenced by Garvey. So you'll see things in Ghana like the Black Star Line, when they built a shipping line.
Is that in Accra? Because I didn't know that. The star
Well,
line.
the star on the flag itself is a black star, and that was definitely Garvey.
I didn't know that connection.
I know.
Wow.
And then the Black Star Line, shipping line. Garvey's was called the Black Star Line. Guess what Nkrumah named the shipping line in Ghana? Black Star Line. Black Star Square. These were directly taken from the idea of Garvey. And so one thing that the film also begins to talk about is how Garvey didn't have land. He didn't have a base.
Right.
And so Nkrumah took that ideology, that formulation, that vision further and said, hey, we really do have a base. We have a continent and we had better protect it. And that people like Garvey and Nkrumah need to be thought of. They've done the intellectual work. Now let's see if we can begin to implement some of this here.
I'm just thinking, as you're talking about Garvey and him never meeting Garvey, which is so unfortunate because Garvey never got there, never got to Ghana, as opposed to the boys getting to Ghana and those two being at different ideologies. But it just imagine the power if those two would have united, because they were around the same period. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Think about, that.
Garvey, he was, Garvey was just before Nkrumah. But I think that the great thing about our legacy is that, these great thinkers leave a baton. And, they influence thousands and, millions of people like Garvey, for example, the boys, for example, millions of people, and all the writings that he left behind. And so they're there for people like who have courage in the next generation, or maybe it skips a generation, but the courageous and pick up that baton. And so it's like being there. It's like linking together that energy, to make a better future.
Yes. I got a question here. So how can we change the narrative or perception of Pan-Africanism to or for the average person of color, or better yet, for the larger society? Other than watching films like this, how can we change the narrative?
I think it's a matter of talking like this, looking at films and reading, because that just the logical ideas about making our future better are there. We don't have to reinvent everything. And I think by reading these things out, it's something that empowers you. I was just looking up, she's not necessarily a Pan-Africanist, but I was looking at Shirley Chisholm recently and going back to her book, Unbought and Unbossed. And she makes current politicians look like milquetoast. Yet she ran for president. She was a congresswoman. And
yes, well, Houston. Well, she's not originally from Texas, but she lived in Texas.
Yeah. And so she, I just feel like she had the nerve to say some things that you have to have the nerve to say if you want to really usher in change. And why not read her? Why not pick up a book? Why not see her film? A film was made on her called Unbought and Unbossed. Now there are ways you can look at these movies and, have movie watching parties with your friends. Wear a mask together and watch a movie with the windows open. I don't know. Show movies in your backyard. Look at movies like SABIFF, and San Antonio Black International Film Festival has amazing movies that need to be shared and viewed and discussed. And I think that that's the way to go. It's not something that can happen by osmosis, you know, by sitting and just watching Netflix. It really is a deliberate process of kind of, you know, going through and deciding what you're going to give your time to, because your time is precious. You know, you get to be, say, my age, and you look back and say, wow, I hope I did a little bit of something, because my best energy is behind me. And I feel like, I hope that there's something that I spent my time doing well. And you want to be able to say that about your life. Saying that I watched, I nerded out on some series. What do they call it when you sit in front of a TV and watch 12 episodes?
Oh, binge watching.
Watch, 12 different series on Netflix. That's not the legacy we want you to have. I'm going to say that I want to be able to say that I did something with my time. And I think most of us want that. And it just takes a bit of energy and courage to look up that material and be deliberate about learning. Even sharing that material is activism. Share it.
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yep. It's activism. And I think people grow. I got into film. The first thing one of the earliest exposures I had to independent filmmaking was in Detroit, where I grew up. And there was a Black film festival there. And I was like, oh, what is this? We're all kind of freaked out, not able to figure out what this was that we were looking at. But I am so grateful to those people who brought those films there. Because,
it exposed you to a whole nother realm of film. Well, me too. I mean, I never heard about Black independent filmmaking until I went to Howard. It was just like, who is this Shirikiana Gerima? Who is this Ford and Alonzo? Yeah, it was eye-opening, and it changed my direction of my path. Yeah.
And you've been instrumental in exposing so many people to so many movies. I mean, you've been doing this since you
curating.
Curating. Even
girl, it's a struggle. It's just struggle to get folks to even tune in and watch. I mean, but it's just something I'm passionate about. So you just keep it going.
And you're doing a great job.
Thank you. So it's another one. Do you connect Pan-Africanism to movements today, like BLM, Black Lives Matter? Is that just an extension of it?
I hope that they are connected. It's not my job to connect. I mean, I think that the Black Lives Matter is so very much a movement of frustration of a generation, that you really want that generation to make sure they connect. I think one of the misfortunes of some of the elements during the civil rights movement and Black nationalism in the 60s and 70s was a disconnect. Sometimes you felt like you were starting from the beginning. And I remember that myself, being with groups, for example, who were in theater, and we just felt like we were the beginning. But it's because we hadn't read. So then we began to read. And we had study groups, and we shared books. Reading was just something you did. You see people on campus or in high school, they carried another book with them. They had their textbook, but they also were reading a book. What are you reading? Hey man, can I borrow that when you finish? That became a culture. And so that's the kind of thing I think that Black Lives Matter, everybody else who's fighting for change, needs to make sure they're aware of, because you want to make sure Black Lives Matter has a context. You don't want anybody to have the misconception, enough of a misconception of who they are to wear a T-shirt that says, "I'm not my ancestors." Well, guess what? You better work on trying to be your ancestors, because they were the baddest thing on the planet. And if you don't know that, you will be starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
and be sitting there in front of Netflix, thinking, just looking for some more popcorn or whatever it is.
Mm.
But I really do hope that Black Lives Matter makes sure that they're grounded in the power and the energy that their ancestors and even people that are living now have prepared for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tool, it's a weapon.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Can you tell, I mean, I know for me, film has taken me, the experiences of working on different films has taken me to places that I never thought I'd go, you know, Cape Coast, you know, sugarcane fields in Jamaica. But what has film done for you in your journey, in your path? Just being a filmmaker, period. But what has it done for you in terms of your growth and development as a woman on this planet?
Well, I think I can definitely credit film with giving me a sense of purpose. I feel like when I came to Howard, you know, you mentioned coming to Howard and how that kind of was enriching for you. The
Now your light has changed. Turn your light up a little bit. Ah, because I'm losing you. Okay, that's good.
I can do some environmental light too, because we're gonna lose more. My window's gonna get darker and darker.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Good. So I was saying that when I came to Howard, I began to have the possibility of being a filmmaker, which is not why I came to Howard. I came to Howard because I thought that by being being in communications as a Black person, I could probably have more control of Black images, which was a field call at that time. If we're going to do it, if we're going to get any better, if our conditions are going to get better, we have to stop having so many negative images of us. And so that's how you got people like BET going, and he just made it all worse. But he began to feel the call for controlling our own images. This is how you got Howard's communication school, because this idea of Black people being in control of their own images. So that's what I wanted to get into. It would either be journalism or TV news or something like that. When I came here and I met Haile and I met, you know, other filmmakers, and picked up a camera and realized that, whoa, this is another level of control here. You know, I don't just have to be, you know, in front of the camera hoping that I'll be working in a system or company that would let me say what I believe. I can be the controller. So it gave me another sense of power that I really loved and still do. And not only controlling the image, but the artistic possibility of, you know, the interpretation of that image was just really, really, really powerful. And it appealed to my sense of artistry as well. So I think that's what it did to me. And I am so grateful for that.
And also just seeing the impact of what your work can do for other people, or how it works. I mean, we saw that with the power of Sankofa, and that was so like revolutionary in terms of changing my thought of the power of what a film can do for people and to people. And so, yeah, just that you talk about the power of the camera, just the power, not of the image, of the story, and getting that story to screen.
Yeah.
Connected.
And that's where independence comes in. I just can't imagine. I worked for Black radio in Detroit before I came to DC. And I had some flexibility there. I was, you know, just a news person. But even within the context of that, I had some flexibility. And then there was Black TV in Detroit too. It was called For My People. And it was something that also came out of struggle. For My People was 5 hours of TV every Saturday on public TV. And it was an amazing kind of accomplishment because, you know, we could interview who we wanted, ask the questions that we wanted to. And I think having that, you know, seeing the strength of that was also helpful when I came to DC too, because I recognized it when I saw what Heidi was bringing from UCLA. He was coming from UCLA where they had, you know, completely turned out the film school with Black and brown images. And we're really questioning all of the white precepts of what cinema was supposed to be. Implementing ideas from South America, Latin America, from Africa, Usman Sambane, etc. And I think that when he brought that to Howard, I was right. I was like, yes, this is something that I can really relate to, this idea of power, because I was ready. I mean, I still am. I think, you know, that yearning of young people to change is something that we have a responsibility to tap into and say, yes, there are tools out here that can help you make the change that you think is necessary.
Shirik, I know we are live, but I'm going to ask you to cut the light on. And I'll talk while you do that because I want to see you. And there we go. Whatever light. Yeah. No. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah. So while she's doing that, Shirik was referring to the LA Rebellion period, and Haile Gerima brought that to Howard when he came. So let me ask you this: I look at film as symbolically being synonymous to child. Because to me, each film you make kind of represents a child. You conceive it, you create it, you birth them, the pain and struggles you go through, and they distinctively they represent you and what's important to you with an emotional impact that they leave on the audience. Just so, as a wife of a renowned filmmaker of Haile Gerima, as a mother of 5 children, who also, in a sense, also had to transmit, you know, your kids transmit the same type of connection to you, the creator, the parent. They transmit that. You know, I could meet one of your kids and know that they were raised properly, just like or raised with a rebellious parent. I know, right? But can you talk about how you, over the years, have been able to balance the two? I mean, 5 kids, filmmaker, entrepreneur. Shirik and her husband own Sankofa bookstore in Washington, D.C. You started Positive Productions. You started My Fudu Film, the distribution company, Neged Guad Films to make your production. So there was a lot going on at one time. Do you ever think how the hell you managed everything or balanced everything and kept your sanity?
Well, I'm not sure if the last one is true, but you know, it's 6 kids. So
yeah. Okay.
So I think that, you know, people like you in our lives, Ada, you
Your
know,
village.
because the village, it's just no joke. You know, we have also our in-laws, you know, aunts who think of our children as their children. So when we go out of town, where the kids go, their house. Was it 6 of them? Yes. Were they welcome there? Yes. And so I was able to be shooting in Ghana. Harley was able to be organizing a sort of conference around the legacy of the maintenance of a castle or a dungeon in Atlanta. And the kids came down to Atlanta to be with him because they were being watched by his sister. You know, so it was that kind of thing. And I think that that's absolutely the only way to do it. And being a team also helps because, you know, we're kind of fighting up the same tree. And I just wish we could do more. Because there's so much more to do. And I think that, you know, keeping your sanity is really is a question of, it's a matter of opinion, because you being a mother was very important to me as a younger
As we left you with both twins on your breast, breastfeeding. Bye. We're gonna go do location scouting for Sankofa.
That was you, wasn't it?
I will never forget that image of leaving you. I feel so bad, but anyway.
That was you. Okay.
I digress. Just a memory flash. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. And that was rough. It was rough. But I think that'd have been rough even without, the production. Just motherhood is tough, and you just want to have a village around you to make that possible. And I think I did. It was tough. And I don't regret any of it. Would I've done some things differently as a mother? I think all of us think of those things we could have done differently or maybe easier. But motherhood is the best.
It is.
It's the best.
It
and
is.
Grandmotherhood is really a great runner-up.
Oh, because you can always give them back at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Your parents. Oh my God. So what is next? What is next for you? What are you working on next? What do you have visions to?
Well, next is I really want to couple things. One is I want to create a structure that will protect our legacy as we go forward. I'm working hard on kind of creating something like that will institutionalize what we've done. And film-wise, I want to finish a film on Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, in Africa. So his life in Africa was really longer, if you can believe it, than his life in the United States. His activism in Africa was even longer. And so we know so little about that. I think, it's just another logical follow-up to this idea of Pan-Africanism, this bridge between the diaspora and the continent. He's from Trinidad. And, one of the baddest Pan-Africanists that ever lived. And he became a secretary to Kwame Nkrumah when he was in exile in Guinea.
I did not know that. Thank you. Yeah, right? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. After when he left here, when things hit the fan so badly here, he said, well, there's some other frontiers I can work on, some other terrains I can work in. And so that's what he did. One of the things he did, and he stayed in Guinea. So Kwame Nkrumah, as you know, was exiled from Ghana. And they did a coup when he was out of the country. And he was welcomed to Guinea by Sékou Touré, who Nkrumah had helped when the French left, when Guinea became independent. The French just dogged everything and left, and tore up everything before they left. And Guinea needed money, and Kwame Nkrumah gave them an amazing financial support. And so when Kwame Nkrumah was when the coup happened, Sékou Touré said, "You're my co-president. Come to Guinea. They don't want you. That's fine with me. Come on over to throw me in the cabbage patch because this is where we need you." And so that's where he stayed and continued to do work, continued to write, continued to publish his books. Some of his books were published while he was in Guinea, and Sékou Touré was there. And Kwame Nkrumah, was Stokely Carmichael, who renamed himself Kwame Ture after his two heroes, Kwame Nkrumah and Sékou Touré. He put those names together, and that's how he became Kwame Ture.
Had you ever met him on Howard's campus? Were you around on campus at that time?
I didn't meet. No, he is long gone from Howard's campus.
Oh,
by the time
you got there. Oh, okay.
But we did meet him and we did talk to him, and so we and I was able to go there just before he died too. Wow. In Guinea, yeah.
So you have that footage of your interview with him for your film. Excellent.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that. To have you back on.
Yeah. Me too.
This has been a treat. I really appreciate you spending your time with us here today. So this is something we do every month, audience. We present a film every month here at SABIFF.tv. And then we have our larger festival in September 30th through October 3rd. So we hope everybody joins us then. I want to make a correction. Sherry Chisholm was from the Caribbean, but she was a resident of Houston, I believe.
And a New York Congresswoman.
And New York Congresswoman. New York, not Houston, New York. Sorry. Mimi Machado Lucas Salmon told me that. She is our TD. And Mimi, I want to thank you, Mimi of TVA Productions. Come on in, girl. You can come in the studio. But yeah, we thank you for TD and for us, sisters working together, trying to make these events happen. Thank you again. We appreciate you. We appreciate your work. Where can we find Footprints of Pan-Africanism again? If somebody missed it today and want to see it again, where can they find it?
Footprints of Pan-Africanism is available on DVD. And it is available through Sankofa.com. And that's probably the fastest way to get a copy of that film.
Sankofa.com. And Sankofa is a wonderful place to visit, people. If you're in the Washington, D.C. area, it with all the gentrification going around, you can walk in Sankofa and feel whole and feel sane and feel comfortable.
Sankofa Video and Bookstore.
Yeah, Sankofa Video and Bookstore. But the website is Sankofa.com, or did I put that wrong?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, great. All right, I want to thank you again and thank everybody for watching. Please tune in next month. We're doing a film on Juneteenth, so make sure that you tune into that. Crawford, the man that you will not, you should names you shouldn't forget. It's a film we're partnership we're producing with, showing in conjunction with the Community Renewal Society out of Chicago. So it's really something I want everybody to tune into. Again, thank you, and we will see you next month. All right. Take care, Sharik.
Thank you, Ada.
Bye-bye.